A number of people have sent me various videos of the new Star Wars droids walking around Disney's Galaxy's Edge theme park. These are smallish bipedal droid characters which are a bit like BD-1, but kind of bigger with bigger joints because they aren't fiction. These are actually pretty dynamic robots which have come out of Disney Imagineering. The same team most likely built the Baby Groot robot which we saw a couple of years ago. Key features include the ability to walk on uneven terrain and stay upright if they get pushed around. They're also quite emotive characters and appear to potentially have some form of AI to make them interact, although they're also puppeteered. Interestingly, it looks like they don't have sideways ankle joints, they just pivot on the feet, which are long edges that touch the ground. Otherwise, as far as I can tell, they have an axis at the ankle, knee and hip, and then two more axes for sidestepping and rotating the legs so they can walk in a curve. They also have a head which does a few things, and in some footage it looks like that may be helping stability front to back. But it's not always apparent, and probably isn't necessary since other bipedal robots don't need to throw mass back and forth like that.
So a lot of people have asked if I can make a project like that, but I'm not a team of researchers funded by Disney. I'm just one person in my house making YouTube videos for clicks. Whoops.
Some of you may remember my walking Star Wars Gonk droid that I built some time ago. I was pretty happy with the results at the time. This robot had pretty big feet, which it definitely needed, and I was on a pretty tight budget at the time, so I used motors that only cost around £10 each in money, and of course a lot of 3D printing. It was dynamically stable though, so it measured its angle with an inertial measurement unit and tried to balance. However, unlike the robot dogs I went on to build, the Gonk droid had no inverse kinematics or interpolation, which we'll talk about later in this video. So I was just adding some numbers to some of the angles based on how far it leant over and trying to coax it along. I've learnt a lot since then, and I also have more budget, so I'm going to attempt a new bipedal robot based on the Disney droids. The robot I'm going to build in this video will only have 4 motors. I'm going to ignore 4 of the hip joints as well, and also simplify the legs so we just end up with something that's a bit like tipping a box onto its corners without the body being able to translate directly sideways. I am however going to walk on feet with edges to pivot sideways, so no big feet this time around. If this works okay, then I can move on to build something more advanced in a future video with a head and some of the missing joints. So my legs are parallelograms, which means I only need one motor for each half instead of separate ankle, knee and hip motors. And yeah, that's all the axes it has. This leg structure is similar to how I recently built the walking AT-AT project, which you can check out in my channel, although that didn't have to balance sideways, and also the original Gonk droid, but that had really big feet. So we'll see how it goes for me this time. There's quite a few parts to make for this project because it's bipedal, which means we have 2 legs and we have to make all the parts twice plus the bit of the body, but it's not as bad as making robot dogs I guess with 4 legs. Just a quick ad from my 3D printing sponsor, thanks to Lolsbot for supporting my channel with 3D printers. Here are some of the sticks that make up the parallelograms for the leg, and we've also got these feet parts to print, which we've got 4 of those because there's 2 on each side. The body doesn't actually fit on the normal Lolsbot Taz bed, so I'm using the Taz Long bed, which has a bed twice as long as the other printers, and that'll enable me to do the hips and the main piece of the body, which we're colour coding to look just like the Disney droids. Thanks to 3D Fuel for the filament for this project, you can now get 10% off at 3dfuel.com with my special code and link, and I'll get a small commission. I'm going to be using these Dynamix or servos for this project, and these were previously sent to me by Robotis, who are the manufacturer, and I've used these in some projects before. These are XM540 W270T servos. Each one of those is mounted in a housing with a bearing on the bottom, so we can make a double hinged or double braced joint, and that should be pretty sturdy for our robot. This is the hip section for the robot, and on the bottom of that piece I've got another 3D print which is glued and screwed on, and that's going to be the back pivot point for the parallelogram, so I'm just going to put some 8mm studding through there. That's fixed on with some nuts either side, and that's going to make the back pivot point for the legs. So each of these servos actually has some M2 holes, and I've also left some holes in the 3D print, and those can be screwed or bolted through into that hip section. And that's going to be the mounting for most of these servos. I did design a plate for the bottom of these as well, but I'm pretty sure that servo's held on okay now, and it also restricts access to the connector where I need to plug in the data cable, so I'm not going to bother installing those right now. The output of the servos has a nice plate with lots of M2 holes, and of course I can attach my 3D print there right to it, and that's going to make the first part of the leg on those servos on each side. And that's basically the thighs. On the other side of the servo, the inside of the thighs, we've got another piece, and that piece has got some lumps installed that fit into the bearings. I've put a screw through those, that means they've got a metal core and they won't easily snap off, so that should be super tough. That plugs into the bearing, which is on the back of that servo mount, and then that moves quite freely. And there's a spacer between those that holds them together and holds the whole thing so that the pieces don't just pull out of the bearings. So those are my two fronts of my thighs now complete. The legs are made of parallelograms, so we've got the back of the parallelogram as well, which are made of these parts, which have some bearings installed. So those fit onto the studding on one side, and those are obviously running on bearings, and then on the back they'll fit onto the knee, and that will make the parallelogram for the top half of the leg. The knee sections are two more servos that are going to control the bottom of the leg, so we've got that bearing and the servo horn on the front, and two bearings on the back so we can complete the parallelogram. So the levers are attached to those that go down to the feet, and then on the back of those we've got another piece with a little lump in that fits into those bearings, and that means we've got that double brace section again to go down to the feet. The feet have these TPU strips on, which are basically the edges I'm going to walk on, and I'm able to reposition those to different screw holes so we can change the pivot point. And again we've got these orange levers that go down to the back of the ankle to complete the parallelogram, and that's on a bolt through a bearing. With that all together, we've got the bottoms of the legs with the feet attached, and of course each of those are parallelograms with the servo at the knee, which means everything moves parallel together. You'll notice that orange lever's precariously attached in the middle there with a gap either side, and that means that the orange lever from the top of the leg can come and overlap with it, so they're all pivots on the same pivot points. And you'll also notice there's a bearing on the outside here, and there's also space for a bearing on the inside, and that's again so the top levers can overlap on the same pivot points. And I left those lumps in there on the top of the leg, so we can now put the bottoms of the leg on. And everything's upside down here with the hips onto the bench. The missing piece is on the outside of the thigh, which is another piece with a lump on, and that fits into that bearing on the knee, and then that screws on and holds everything together. So now we've got basically our complete parallelogram as soon as we put that orange lever on, and that, as I said, just fits either side of the bottom half of the lever, and that bolt goes through. So now we've got two parallelograms with all of the pivot points overlapping, and that's going to make it much easier to solve inverse kinematics. These are my lumps that I put on the bottom made of TPU for the pivot points, and I'm probably going to move those around. I've put them quite close together at the moment. This is the body we printed on the TAS long bed, which fits on there, and that's got a split in it so I can take the top off and we can look at the electronics. And that consists of various boards in a stack, which you can see just there. On the bottom of the stack is a Teensy 4.1, which is the main microcontroller, followed by the Dynamixel interface shield, which I've connected to a serial port on the Teensy. And also on the top we've got the BNO 086, which is a new SparkFun inertial measurement unit that should just give us the angle. I'm using the library and the example provided by SparkFun on the I2C interface to the Teensy, and we can see we've got our three axes of angle there for pitch, roll and yaw. But for these experiments we're only going to use the roll axis. I've got a 3S LiPo battery which is going to power everything sat under the electronics. So now I've wired in the Dynamixel interface, and I've just split it off and daisy chained the servos in the hips followed by the knees. And that's all you need to do to control them.
But before we see what we can get out of that, it's time for a quick ad from the video's sponsor, which is PV Case. Now, PV Case is a next-generation AutoCAD-based piece of PV software focused on automation and accuracy. It allows you to simulate the actual location of a solar plant from the earliest stages of planning, incorporating 3D topographical data points. So PV Case is the ideal choice for companies undertaking large commercial and industrial projects as well as utility-scale plants. The software really is intuitive and has streamlined processes to help reduce the learning curve and improve productivity. Features include everything from the prototyping stage, electrical design, stringing, shading and terrain analysis, and automatic generation of construction documentation, so PV Case really does enable engineers and designers to take the project all the way through from its initial conception to the procurement phase. This really is an end-to-end approach which saves time and reduces errors. It's streamlined so you don't need to switch between tools or other software platforms. Other features include slope analysis, piling and collision analysis, automated topographical 3D cabling, side-by-side design comparison and rapid 3D building preparation. Try PV Case for free by following the link in the description to this video. Right, let's get this powered up. Well, it's standing under its own power. I've moved these TPU foot blocks slightly further apart so it's a bit more stable now. So kind of like, you know, Feels like it wants to walk along really, so let's code it up and see if we can do something.
I've talked quite a bit about inverse kinematics in some other videos. What we need to achieve is being able to specify the foot position in Cartesian coordinates, which are straight lines like the axes of a graph, and then have the maths work out what the actual joint angle should be for us. This isn't too hard with high school trigonometry if we divide the robot up into triangles. Firstly, we take the side profile of the leg, we know two of the lengths and we need to specify the other one, which means we know all three sides of the triangle. We can use Pythagoras' theorem and trigonometry to work out the angles here. Then once we know which angles are required to make the leg the length we need, we can treat that as a straight line and draw another triangle to move the foot back and forth. That's a right angle triangle, so it's also easy to solve. The hypotenuse of that triangle gets fed into the previous bit of maths to specify the new leg length. I've attached a radio receiver to my electronic stacks, which is an orange receiver for DSM remotes, and I built my own DSM remote in another video that you can check out, which I'll be using in this project. So now if I turn one of the sticks, we can move in the Z-axis up and down, and it should go in a perfectly straight line. We can also move backwards and forwards if I'm really careful not to tip over backwards as we move the mass. Essentially you can see the body though moving in a straight line, back and forth, and all of those controls mixed together because one piece of maths is fed into the other. And that means I can move anywhere within the axes of my graph, even if I don't want to move in a straight line. For instance, I can plot a curve or I can move diagonally, and all of those axes work together, just specifying the two coordinates. It's all very well and good while I'm moving the stick slowly, but if I make a step sequencer, basically I move those legs on timers, then the servos are going to move as fast as they can possibly go between the two positions. And that's far too severe. Probably kicking the leg like this is going to tip the robot over. So the next thing we need to do is use interpolation, which allows me to plot all the points from A to B over a longer period of time, but with the step change input. I'm using the Arduino ramp library for this, and I've used this several times before. So now I can make those legs move much more slowly over a longer period of time, and basically it interpolates all the positions on the way as if I'm moving the sticks really slowly instead of making that harsh step change. I can also specify any coordinate for the start and end, and that means I can move the legs diagonally or plot any sort of path that I want to do. We can also of course make both legs move and make them move independently to do whatever motions we'd like. Let's put it on its feet and see what happens. Obviously with those legs moving to fixed positions on fixed timers, it just pushes itself back and forth. But let's try and push it onto one foot and see if we can get it to take steps. So you can see it kind of looks like it wants to work there, but obviously it's got no sense of balance. We might get 2 or 3 steps out of it, but then of course it overbalances and yeah, a bit of a disaster so far. If I take that orange body piece off, that removes some of the mass, so now it can thrash around even quicker, which means it probably doesn't work at all. So I can kind of try and hold it in position, but really what we need is for it to work out when it's tipping over itself and stop it tipping over and stop it building up momentum like this and just tipping over.
So it looks like those motors are fast enough and powerful enough for it to be able to walk, which is quite good. But obviously unregulated with fixed timers on fixed positions, we might get 2 or 3 steps in, but then basically inertia builds up as it rocks backwards and forwards, and eventually of course it tips over. So now of course what we need to do is use that inertial measurement unit that we installed, which is right on top there, to measure the angle and somehow modify those steps to regulate them to try and get it balanced consistently without overbalancing and tipping over.
So here's what we did have, which is just the feet moving up and down. When one moves up, the other one moves down, and they move up or down, and that takes half a second, so a 1 second walking cycle basically. So now what I've done is put a gap in between triggering each of those legs to take a step, and I've tied that to one of my sticks. So as I turn the stick, the gap in between the steps gets bigger, so you can see that's a really big gap there, and as I turn the stick down again, then that gap gets shorter and shorter until there's no difference and we end up with what we had before. And I plan to regulate this gap with the inertial measurement unit data to keep it stable. So some initial values there, which basically I've got the inertial measurement unit roll axes, which is measuring the angle side to side, and as that angle gets bigger, it makes the gap in between steps bigger. That's all it does. There's no fancy PID controllers or anything, it's just a multiplication. So if I just hold the programming cable out of the way there so it's not dragging, you can see that if it tips too far, then it kind of slows down and that kills the momentum so it doesn't keep overbalancing. But it doesn't look that consistent and it's still leaning quite a lot, so I think we can still do better than this. This is exactly the same thing, but I'm showing the timer in real time there. So the other statistics are that the leg is 260mm at its longest and 240 at its shortest, so only actually moving 20mm. The whole leg cycle is 600 milliseconds, so that's 300 milliseconds to lift it up and 300 to put it down, and then the trigger timer ranges from a minimum of 100 milliseconds up to whatever it is, and I think I just multiplied the IMU roll data by something like 10 and then added it on, and that's all it's doing to vary that gap in between steps. And you can see that it's quite inconsistent. Sometimes there's a big gap, and as you'd expect, sometimes there's a small gap. So even though it's stable, it looks a bit crazy still. I thought I'd speed things up a bit so it doesn't have to lean so far, so now my leg cycle is reduced to 500 milliseconds, so 250 milliseconds up and 250 milliseconds to move the leg down, and my trigger time ranges from 50 milliseconds up to whatever based on adding that IMU data just multiplied up till it works by trial and error. It's still quite inconsistent looking though, because that timer is ranging by quite a large amount. So the answer to that is to have two timers. One is shortening the leg cycle, so it's actually making that up and down time shorter when it leans over more, but it's making the trigger between the legs longer. So that's basically making the step shorter and making the gap between them longer, but altogether that gives us roughly the same amount. So that looks much more consistent and it looks much more stable and repeatable. Yep, this is exactly the same thing, but we're just going to have a close-up there. We can see that it's definitely walking on those edges, and it's definitely taking its feet off the ground, which is pretty good, so no shuffling, and it's not relying on those big plates to balance, it's definitely walking on those edges. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this has gone for a 2-week project. I wasn't really sure if I'd be able to make this work at all without any hip joints to translate sideways and just tipping onto the corners like a box tipping onto its corners basically. So I'm pretty happy with how this has worked out so far. The only one thing I will point out though is that the table's quite wobbly, and that may be causing me some issues. It's a similar thing to if you put lots of metronomes on a moving table, they all go in sync. So it may be that the robot is also reflecting the coefficient of the wobbliness of the table, but I'm pretty sure that this is pretty good for something I threw together. It does start by itself. When I pick it up, it feels a bit sketchy. I probably need another little sequence to start off the first step differently. If I push the feet along though, it feels very much like it wants to walk along, and it still balances okay. So I should probably try and code up something here to try and make it take some rudimentary steps, and see if we can get it to locomote. Yeah, stopping isn't graceful either really. So I just added some extra stages to my step sequencer to move the feet back when they're on the ground and move them forward when they're off the ground, and now it basically takes rudimentary steps. If it reminds you of Huey, Dewey and Louie, then post in the comments. And this is where I probably should have grabbed the robot instead of trying to stop it with the remote, because disaster struck. And yeah, the plastic's completely smashed there. So that's the end of that.
Well, I need to rebuild the hips anyway to put the joints in so it can go like this. And also so it can go like this, so it can turn on the spot. So that's at least another 2 axes per hip that I need to rebuild, so that's going to happen in a future video. I'm pretty happy with that for a 2-week project. It's given me quite a lot of confidence that I can actually make this work. And I'm also going to put the head on next time as well. I'm going to publish all the CAD so far for version 1 as open source, and all that's on my GitHub. So if you'd like to support me through Patreon, then have a look at that, or YouTube channel membership. And patrons and YouTube channel members can get all of the videos up to a week early. Alright, that's all for now.